Hello, welcome back. Today I have another productivity app review, and this time I'm going to be exploring ClickUp. This is not sponsored, and in fact I have not personally used the paid version of ClickUp, just the free version. But I will talk about what the paid plans offer and why you may choose to pay for ClickUp. I'll start by covering what ClickUp is and which problems it aims to solve. When I first heard of this app a few years ago, it was pretty early in its development. It was a typical project planning, task management app with a few integrations for convenience. They have since expanded their feature set quite a bit and gotten a little bit more ambitious. ClickUp's homepage declares that it is one app to replace them all. So I guess a little more ambitious is an understatement. They list on here tasks, documents, chat, goals, and quote, more. If you start to click through some of their product tabs, you can see it is still mostly a project planning app, but with a heavy focus on collaboration with features like live whiteboarding sessions, documents, progress reports, and time tracking. So how much of this is free and how much of it do you have to pay for, and how much does that payment cost? The good news is that most features are available on the free plan. The ones that aren't are usually related to a specific business need, which is pretty common for apps like this to take features that would directly impact a profit-focused business and make those ones the paid features. That's pretty common. The paid tiers offer things like the ability to have multiple teams, guest accounts, time tracking, more advanced dashboards. One thing that's a little bit odd though is this concept of uses for certain features. I have a totally normal, not weird fascination with Gantt charts. So that's always the first thing I look for, is if they have Gantt charts for me to play with. They do have both a Gantt chart and a timeline view, and these features have 100 uses on the free plan. Now what does that mean? What is one use? I'm still not sure. The FAQ is a bit vague. I'm not sure if it means you can make changes on a Gantt chart view 100 times or if you can create 100 separate Gantt chart views. Either way, 100 is a lot, and you should have enough time to properly vet these views if you think you might want to use them long term, and if you decide they are useful and that you want to pay to continue access to them. The next tier up is currently just $5 a month per team member, and then it becomes unlimited uses at that point. You also have unlimited uses of the other views, so things like tables, lists, boards, and the calendar are all unlimited on the free version. Now let's get into playing with the app. I made my ClickUp account a while ago, like I mentioned, when they were much earlier in development, so I'm not sure if the onboarding process looks different. But the first thing you'll need to do is create a space for your work. You can have multiple spaces. There's not really a concrete purpose for a space. It's however you want to use it. As a one-person team, I don't really need more than one space, but I could see these being useful for people who work in multiple disciplines to keep those separate things separate, or people who work on multiple projects as part of a team. Really, this is whatever you make of it, this division of spaces. When you create a new space, ClickUp walks you through the whole process. So you can start by either using a template. I'm not going to do this because I want to show the manual process, but they have some templates in here that you can choose from. You give it a name, color, and icon to identify it. It can be part of your sort of company workspace or private. Next, we come to the status setup, and this is interesting because this is something that I've used Jira a lot as in my professional work, and getting your statuses just right is critical for software teams using Jira, and so it's fun that they've got this right off the bat. You don't have to go in and change it later. You can if you get it wrong and you want to make changes, but right from the beginning they want you to set up your process. The idea here is that you have a status for each individual part of your process, and some of them are considered done processes and some of them are not. They have some pre-made processes here that you can pick from. The normal one is pretty simple. It's just got like a to-do, in progress, and done. Some of these are tailored to marketing with the ability to set tasks as running, like for a campaign. The Scrum process is pretty elaborate. And the cool thing is that you can pick any of these and then you can adjust them. So you can add new statuses, rename them, change the color, rearrange them in the order. The idea is that these go in order from top to bottom. So spending some time here can help you get the most out of your ClickUp space, especially if you're working on a team, so that you can figure out what's going on. The next part of the space setup is the Click apps. These also can be adjusted later. They can be added or removed later. Then they represent the features that will be available in that space. If you want to keep things simple, remove anything you don't need. I, for one, have never really used tags effectively, but I am a little bit interested in time estimates, so I've made some adjustments there. And note that some of these features will require an upgraded subscription. They have a little flag on them for which ones are on the business tier or the unlimited tier, I think it's called. And finally, you can select which views are default, set up by default, and which ones are required for this space. The list is sort of their base view where everything is built up, so it can't be turned off, but everything else is totally up to you, and you don't have to actually look at the list view if you don't want to. You can tab over to a different view if you just don't like it. Now, once you have created a space, you can always find it in the sidebar. It'll have the color, the name, and the icon that you selected. When you click on it, it will open up that space in the main portion of the screen. You can see all the views at the top. The lists view will probably be the one that drops you in first thing. And now you can actually start using ClickUp. That's really all the mandatory setup that you need to do. Everything else is sort of optional to customize it. So you can type a name of a task right into the list, hit enter to save, and you have created a task. The list view is really good for entering a lot of tasks at once. Because you can just keep typing, type, enter until they're all in. In your list view, you can change how information is displayed by clicking the little plus icon on the right. You can show new columns or remove ones that you don't like. And then if you want to adjust the details of a task, you can actually click on it, and that will open up a view of just that task with like a description space, attachments, a checklist, comments. And depending on what features or Click apps you selected, you may have some other things in here as well. Now, if we go back to our main view, we can click over to the board view at the top, or add one if we didn't add one in the setup process. Here we can see the same tasks in a different format. So the data underneath these views is all the same. They're all connected, but we can view them in different ways. So this is a more typical Kanban style board where everything is in columns based on status. Clicking on a card in the board opens up that same detail view we saw in the list view, and you can change the status of a card by just dragging it into a different column. At the top again, where we tabbed over to this different view, we can click plus view to, surprise, create a new kind of view. In this way, it feels kind of like a Notion database. I love Notion. I use it a lot, where you have this data, like I mentioned, that's the same underneath, and you can just display it in different ways. And I think it's useful to think about the strengths of each of these views. So the board view is good for getting an idea of how many tasks are in progress, where things are in the process. The list view, like I mentioned, is great for entering a lot of tasks really quickly or reviewing like the entire backlog. The timeline or Gantt charts can be nice for forecasting deadlines, identifying bottlenecks, seeing if anything is being held up by anything else, especially if you have a team of people that you're managing or coordinating with. You can also create new lists within a space. So lists, like spaces, are kind of up to you how you want to use them. They can be useful for creating groups of tasks that you want to make reports on later on the dashboard and stuff. What I like to do is use lists to separate versions of an app project, because I typically do software planning in ClickUp. I don't often do other types of planning, but like I mentioned, it can be used however you like. It's just another layer of distinction where you can group things and organize things in a way that makes sense to you and your process. Once you're ready to work on your tasks, it can be helpful to assign a due date and assign a person to the task, even if you are the only person working in this space, because what that does is it will populate your home page with the tasks that are due and the tasks that are assigned to you. If you go one step further and you assign tasks a time, you'll even see a sort of schedule in your home screen that will show your agenda for that day, which can be very convenient. Goals are another way to take project management to the next level. Here you can define goals for your tasks and define targets underneath those. A target might be a number of tasks completed, an amount of currency if you're tracking income, or just a number that you put in. This is pretty open for you to use however you want. You can also assign multiple targets to one goal if you want to do something like OKRs, where you have these objectives with the key results attached to them. I love the idea behind goals, but I haven't personally found a way to work these into my process just yet. I think it could be very useful for people who have external concerns or deadlines that they need to keep track of, or if they have like a person that they need to communicate this progress to. I feel like this goal screen could be very useful for that. And speaking of communication, that brings us to the final part of ClickUp that I'm going to cover in this review, the dashboards. These are pages that you can customize with different metrics. This is where a lot of the business value comes in, so a lot of the dashboard widgets are only available on a paid plan, either the unlimited or the business plan. And just like with the features, you'll see those little flags on the selections that tell you which membership you need in order to use it. So some things you can add to a dashboard: a list of tasks filtered in some useful way, the status of all tasks in a certain list or space as a pie chart or a bar chart or something like that, a plain block of text, perhaps if you want to include a company goal or a mission statement on your dashboard, tasks separated by assignee, also as a pie chart or a bar chart, tasks by priority, goal progress. These, as of my current recording, are all free widgets. And then as you get into the paid tiers, you can add things that calculate something, billable time reports, sprint reports for a Scrum-based team, and a bunch of other stuff that is usually centered around time tracking or team management. Each of these widgets can be dragged around and resized. When you're in editing mode, there's a little tab at the top center of the dashboard to switch between edit and view. And then when you're in view, you have a much cleaner interface that you can just sort of use the dashboard in. So you can get it all set up and then switch over to the view mode. So those are the basics of ClickUp. In the end, I use it as a task management app for some projects. I've kind of been testing it out. I don't use it as my primary source of information. I still use Notion for that. So I haven't used the whiteboard feature or saved any docs. But if you are interested in a review about those features specifically, I could test them out and report back. Just let me know in a comment. The main draw that ClickUp has for me is that it is very pleasant to look at. It's easy to use. Things are organized. The color scheme is very nice. I can find what I'm looking for pretty easily. Having used Jira for my full-time work for years, ClickUp is a breath of fresh, clean air. Jira is, honestly, sorry Atlassian, Jira is a big mess. It offers so much customization that all of the interfaces are very cluttered. I think ClickUp does a better job of keeping everything as minimal as possible while still giving you that functionality that you need. I do get a little bit frustrated by some of the limitations, specifically around the cryptic uses. For the free version, I would much prefer it if they just locked certain things behind the membership, or just gave you the trial to use it. Maybe they just need to explain it a little better, because I do understand ClickUp is a for-profit company. They want to make money. They deserve to make money for creating an app that is useful to people. I just think this one little thing is it's confusing, and it causes me just like a little tiny bit of stress as I'm navigating my free version of the app. As a whole, I really enjoy using ClickUp. I have recommended it for people. They made a lot of positive changes to the app in the last few years as I've sort of been keeping an eye on it, and they continue to grow their feature set, their integrations, their automations. You know, it's really shaping up into a great app. And with their free tier, there's really no reason you can't give it a try and see how you like it. That's all for this video. I hope it was helpful. Please let me know if there are other productivity apps you would like me to try, or perhaps features of existing ones that you'd like me to look into, because I just love these dang things. I love playing with project management and stuff like that. So let me know. I'll be back soon with another video. I hope you have good days until then, and I'll see you there. Bye bye bye.